All right, it's finally time to pre-order the Switch 2. The Switch 2 pre-orders has got to be one of the most chaotic processes I've ever seen. Trying to get this high-demand console was not only painful and annoying, but also one of the most tedious experiences I've ever had pre-ordering something. Not even getting it, just asking for it. And it seems like I wasn't the only one having a hard time. Some folks couldn't lock down a pre-order at all. It was such a chaotic experience that as I sat on my desk until the wee hours of the morning, 2 a.m., I checked, after hours of trying and failing, it was just so ridiculous, I just had to talk about it. So that's what we're gonna do. Why was it so hard to pre-order the Switch 2? What crazy things did I have to go through to make the pre-order happen? And did I get the pre-order at all? Let's find out. But before we do, let's talk about pre-orders and how they've become almost a necessity with getting Nintendo consoles or any console at launch. Buying video games, something that used to be so easy to do in the olden days. Excuse me, sir. I would like one video game, please.
Ah, yes, here you are. One video game as requested.
Excellent. You could just go to a store, say you want something, and then get it? I miss those days. However, with many products, especially video games, it's been a little hard to get things on release date due to supply shortages or the scum of the earth, scalpers. Well, to combat that, we have pre-orders, where you can pay or put money down to reserve a game or console so you have the peace of mind that you're getting what you wanted as soon as possible. I remember stock became an issue in the days of the Nintendo Wii, where I wasn't around to pre-order one myself. I was just entering middle school in 2006, but the console was notoriously hard to get. It sold 600,000 units at launch, and was pretty much sold out everywhere up to 2 years after launch. I remember not getting mine until 2008. The Switch 1 had some similar issues when it first came out, as after that launched, it took a while for more units to come in. I guess Nintendo didn't anticipate how successful the Switch 1 would be. I remember in 2020 it was hard to get them too, but I can't entirely blame Nintendo for that, being as we were all locked in our homes with nothing better to do. The Switch shortages seemed like an excusable thing given the circumstances. Nintendo weren't the only company having these issues. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S pre-orders were difficult too, and for a good 2 years you couldn't get either of them due to chip shortages. I got lucky finding a PS5 with a disc drive literally at a local game store, Killscreen Games, I mentioned him in the previous video, and just pounced on it like a lion hunting their prey. Shifting gears back to Nintendo, Amiibo. My god, I can make a video about Amiibo hunting in general and the madness that came with that. That was certainly a time. Heck, the Wii U, while only selling 13 million units in its lifetime, still sold out when it launched in November of 2012. It just didn't sell much afterwards. But with all of these consoles, I never tried to get one during launch. I either waited months, sometimes years, to get one. This time, though, I wanted to get the Switch 2 from the get-go and play it on day one. I wanted to make sure the Switch 2 was in my hands as soon as possible, so I can make content about it. Subscribe and check out my videos, by the way. So because of this, I, like many others, wanted to pre-order this console as soon as possible. And for a while, it looked like it wasn't going to be that hard. President Furukawa said multiple times they were working on ways to combat scalpers by making sure the US had enough inventory. There would be plenty of units to sell, that they wanted to get as many customers the Switch 2 as possible. It left me genuinely hopeful that it wouldn't take too long for me to get one. Not to mention hearing how people were protesting the price, saying how it's so expensive and that they weren't getting it, and some were even boycotting the Switch 2. I mean, people have every right to not get a Switch 2, but I wanted one, so it gave me more of a chance. Right? That said, people totally don't complain on the internet about the prices, only to buy it anyway. Never happened. The day of the Switch 2 Direct, everything seemed good. Sure, it was expensive and there were a lot of other issues, which I go into in another video, but we not only had a release date, but a pre-order date too. April 9th, 2024. a week after the Direct. They had it where you could pre-order with My Nintendo and secure an email with a link giving you 72 hours to pre-order the Switch 2 of your choice, either the console alone or the Mario Kart World Bundle. I had all the time in the world to plan, get things ready, and mentally prepare for pre-orders. What could possibly go wrong? Due to some very unfortunate timing, a sweep of tariffs were announced by the president on the same day as the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, that were set to go off into effect a couple days after the pre-order date. This caused Nintendo to delay their pre-orders indefinitely for the US and eventually Canada, and thus the panic began. I won't go deep into politics here, but the tariff meant that Vietnam, where Nintendo had moved a lot of their stock and merchandise to be made to avoid tariffs, would get a 46% tariff, potentially causing the consoles, accessories, and games to skyrocket in price, which was bad, especially when Nintendo just announced the price module for everything. People were already complaining about the price for games, and now it was in danger of possibly going even higher? A lot of people were struggling. And by a lot of people, I mean me. I struggled. I was constantly refreshing, constantly looking for news, and constantly in a panic. So much so, I decided to go somewhere I haven't been since 2015 when hunting Amiibo. Somewhere I never wanted to be ever again. I went to Reddit. It wasn't pretty. Even the 90-day tariff pause that safely go into effect well after the launch, with the lack of communication and hesitation Nintendo had with updates, it left their fan base frustrated and desperate for information. I get that it was a tense time. After all, I want to make Nintendo content for my YouTube channel. The idea of not getting their new console or having to pay close to double the price was dancing around in my brain like an anxious leprechaun. Eventually, the day after Mario Kart Direct, Nintendo announced a new pre-order date, April 24th, 2025, nearly a week away, giving us a little less time to plan, but we did have a date. For the US, Walmart, Target, and Best Buy would go live at 12 a.m. Eastern, and GameStop would go live at 11 a.m. Eastern. You could also pre-order in-store whenever they opened. The times were set and everything seemed to go, but this time, there was a lot more uncertainty. Sure, pre-orders were still happening, but how many units would each store get? Would there be enough? I know as the pre-order date got closer, the fear of missing out got stronger. As Nintendo shifted all of their Switch 2 units from Vietnam to the States, China manufacturing wasn't an option for shipping because of tariffs. I think it was over 100% increase at that point, I don't know. And they can only ship so much with the limited options. Plus, the idea the Switch 2 might increase in price after 90 days had naysayers and scalpers who were on the fence purchasing the console before it was too late. There were already fake eBay listings, and we're still weeks away from anything physical going out. Although it was kind of sweet to see people report them, by the way. Keep fighting the good fight. I kept trying to tell myself that Nintendo's inventory would be fine, that Nintendo had thought ahead, and already had a stockpile of units prepared for the States. They delayed the arrival of the Switch 2 from 2024 to now because they wanted to make sure things were more in stock. Yet, that creeping unease wouldn't go away. I really needed to prepare for this, just in case. It didn't help that literally the day before, Nintendo announced to its Japan customers that the demand had exceeded expectations, as nearly 2.2 million people signed up through My Nintendo to get a Switch 2, and that a majority of customers would not be getting it on launch day. 2.2 million in Japan alone. Imagine what the demand would be here in the States, especially with this fresh dose of bad news less than 24 hours before pre-order time. Regardless, the time came and went. Directs, interviews, a Paul Rudd commercial, and now was the time for Switch 2 pre-orders. I remember getting in a VC with my friend Mantelferox. We worked together, communicating and doing our best to help each other out. My main goal was to get the pre-order from Best Buy, picking it up at a midnight release. Target would be my backup, followed by Walmart, and my last resort being GameStop for an in-store pickup. I didn't really trust my GameStop to get things in on time, so I wanted to be safe than sorry. Time seemed to slow down as we approached midnight. My anxiety was at an all-time high when the clock was about to strike 12, and my heart was already racing. I began refreshing the page over and over until bam, it was go time. Best Buy, Target, Walmart. Best Buy, Target, Walmart. Rinse and repeat, over and over and over. The first to bite was Walmart. It took me to a queue where I just had to wait 10 minutes. I thought beggars can't be choosers, so I took a shot on Walmart. I did keep an eye on Target and Best Buy, refreshing them through this entire process, but things were looking grim for Target, as their website had crashed the moment it struck midnight. Yeah, Target was by far the worst handling the pre-orders. Their site kept crashing. The pre-order button simply wouldn't work. I heard horror stories about the Switch 2 vanishing from carts. People who had apparently bought the console already were getting cancellations less than 10 minutes later. It was abysmal to say the least, and my first backup choice turned out to be a flop, which left Walmart and Best Buy. Walmart actually proved to be a lucky break, as after 10 minutes, I was able to pre-order the console along with the Pro Controller, camera, and Joy-Con wheels. I was almost in disbelief with how easy it was. Walmart was kind of an MVP for me, which I know not everyone was lucky with it, but I got it. However, there were still two problems with this. One, I wanted to get the Switch 2 as soon as possible. So while I am happy I got it, I wanted to get it at Best Buy so I could pick it up at midnight. Sure, Walmart said it had a guarantee of it arriving by my house at 9 a.m., but who knows if it would actually happen for me. It did say some of my stuff also wouldn't be arriving until like a day or two afterwards. The second problem was my bank flagged my card and nearly canceled the purchase altogether. They thought it was potential fraud because of how much I was spending on that particular card. It's not fraud, the Switch 2 is just expensive. So I was worried the pre-order would cancel any minute and I would be back to square one. So on to Best Buy I went. And while Target seemed like an absolute failure, Best Buy was a lot more nerve-wracking. First off, they took a lot longer than anyone else, going live 30 minutes after their competitors. After you hit pre-order, it would take you to a queue where you just had to wait. Right, it's a queue, that's what you do, I get it. The problem was, with this queue, how they handled the folks waiting in the queue. Hitting the button was meant to automatically place a console in your cart so you could finish out with no real issues. Unfortunately for me, and probably a lot of others, 10 to 20 minutes after you were put in the queue, the website would refresh and empty your cart. Then you're right back where you started, hitting the button again, waiting in the queue again, and having the cart refresh yet again. It was beyond frustrating. The nervousness was settling in. Was staying up for all this really worth it? Desperation set in. I had the browser going, the app on my phone going. I was queued up for days. Finally, after nearly an hour and a half of waiting, joining queues, getting kicked out of queues, praying to whatever Nintendo god would listen long enough to let me get a Switch 2 at midnight, June 5th, I got it on my phone. I rushed to checkout, not even thinking about the extra accessories, locked in the pre-order, and the Switch 2 would be mine. After that, it was kind of smooth sailing. Doing the same camera queue thing for the Pro Controller, camera, and Joy-Con wheels, my anxiety slowly drained as I got a confirmation for each one. My friend Mantle also got one from Best Buy and a backup from Walmart, so we both considered it a success. There were some strange oddities, like the extra pair of Joy-Cons weren't pre-orderable, and the Amiibo Unobo just wasn't in stock for whatever reason. I actually like Unobo. Still, I got everything I wanted eventually, and by 2:30 in the morning, I had to get some sleep. A part of me wanted to be at the GameStop the moment it opened, but honestly, 2 pre-orders was enough for me. And I had to get my car worked on with new tires, which was more expensive than the Switch 2, but we're not going to talk about that. Eventually, I did get out, and I thought to myself, let me see what GameStop looks like right now. And this is what the line looked like. And seeing how there were only like 50 consoles available for pre-order, Yeah, quite a few people got turned away. I just wound up chilling with people and talking to them about their Switch 2 pre-order struggles. A lot of them wound up not getting one online or winding up too late for the GameStop one. One guy even called off work to try and pre-order a Switch 2, and unfortunately, he was one of the ones that got turned away at my store. But he did tell me he got one eventually. Needless to say, while things were a bit chaotic for me, I managed to get a pre-order. Two, in fact. One which I will be giving to a friend who needs it. Some people didn't get any at all. And if you're one of the people who wanted a Switch 2 pre-order and still haven't gotten one yet, I'm sorry. This console pre-order was such a mess. And while a lot of these steps were put in place to stop scalpers, it sucks that even in the year 2025, retailers just don't know how to handle a product with such high demand like this, with sites crashing and long queue times. A lot of fans got one, sure, but a lot didn't. And I really do hope those frustrated buyers get their chance at some point. There's still the chance of restocks, and my Nintendo has their pre-orders May 8th. Although they posted an update saying you may not get your Switch 2 until after launch, which is fun. Overall, this was my experience with the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders. It was crazy, it was chaotic, difficult, and nerve-wracking, but I'm glad I was lucky enough to get one, and I'm thankful to get a pre-order. I hope everyone is able to get the system at a reasonable price. But if I'm being honest, pre-orders have always been kind of difficult, and it sadly looks like the Switch 2 will be just as difficult. I can only hope we all can eventually get a console of our own for this new generation of Nintendo. Hey everybody, I'm back again. This video took a bit longer than expected. One of the main reasons was I wanted to see what the My Nintendo pre-orders and the GameCube controller pre-order would be like, because those two have happened since then. The My Nintendo pre-orders that happened May 8th, they were different depending on who you talk to. For example, I never got an email. To this day, I still have not gotten an email from My Nintendo basically allowing me to get a pre-order. So I'm glad I got one on Best Buy. Otherwise, if I just waited to get one through Nintendo, I'd be out of luck. And I know many people who did only wait to get one from Nintendo, and they're out of luck, and they won't be able to get one. I also know people who got an email. I know people who got one earlier that day. I know people who got one a day later. It really depends on how fast you were with clicking it, because it's really a first come, first serve type of thing. Even the GameCube Switch 2 controller was in demand. They went live on May 13th, and they went live around like 1 p.m. Eastern, and I get on about 1:14. I'm in a queue to wait for a controller. It's crazy to think that just for a controller, I was in a waiting queue for about an hour. I got the pre-order, thankfully. I got the GameCube controller. It's processed. I got an email confirmation. It should be good and will be delivered to my house sometime after. Needless to say, a lot of people have gotten a Switch 2, but a lot of people still have not gotten a Switch 2. It is still, to this day, as of recording this, May 15th, about 3 weeks away from the Switch 2 launch, and it's still hard to get. Now, we're hearing rumors that Best Buy and Target are going to get some on launch days, so you might be able to get one there, but there's still no guarantee. People who wanted to get a Switch 2 on day one may not be able to, and that kind of stinks. But this really does prove how in demand this console is. How many people want it, how many people want to play it, and despite the price and the fact that Mario Kart World is $80, the fact that physical games are being replaced with key cards, the fact that there's so much issues with the Switch 2, it's going to sell well right away, at least at the beginning. Sum it all up, this pre-order experience has been crazy. An extra special thanks to my Patreon patrons, including Mantle Ferox and Savacom. And a special thanks to everybody who helped me out in this video, listed in the credits below. Thank you so much. I'm sorry this one was a little bit late, but thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. See you next time.